Welcome back to the Forging Alpha podcast, where we talk about lifestyle, motivation, fitness, nutrition, and the habits it takes to be successful.
Welcome to the show.
Today, we're talking about staying on track while you're traveling.
Staying on track while you're traveling and you're busy. I think it's a good thing as we're heading out of the summer, especially we're getting into the fall. We're probably heading into a point in time where a lot of people are traveling, the holidays. This is probably the time of the year where most people's lifestyles start going to shit.
Lots of weird schedules going on. So
Lots of
you're
weird schedules.
exactly right.
Yeah, you just did some traveling this past weekend.
I did. So we left super early Thursday morning, had a 5 o'clock flight. So we were up at like 3 or whatever. Flew to New York. That evening, we were in Long Island, did a little bit of exploring. Friday, we spent the whole day in Manhattan. First time being in the city. And then we shot a wedding on Saturday, came back early Sunday. So we were out and about. Lots of different food coming through.
Mm-hmm.
For the most part, we kept it in track, though. I did not have time to go to, or I didn't make it a priority to go to a gym in Long Island because we didn't have a car. So I'd have to carpool. But we should have gone to Bev Francis's Powerhouse Gym, the East Coast Mecca.
Mm-hmm.
It was like an hour away. If we would have had another day, we for sure would have made it out there.
Yeah. But you got your steps in, it sounds like.
We got plenty of steps in. We're about 30,000 steps on Friday. So I think that probably counts me about good for the whole time we were there. But obviously lots of steps on top of that.
100%.
The thing that I try to prioritize the most when we're out and about, even if I'm not actually tracking my calories, tracking my macros, is just trying to prioritize protein with each meal and trying to get 20 to 40 grams per setting at least.
Any other things that you emphasize while you're traveling between supplements, any sleep stuff, anything you're doing that helps you function or get back on track after traveling?
Not really. So I keep taking my supplements while I'm there.
Yeah.
I'll take everything with me for the most part. But besides that, I'm pretty low maintenance while we're traveling right now.
Mm-hmm.
What about you? What are your go-tos when you're out and about?
My personal go-tos, I take my supplements usually with me. If I'm traveling and change in time zones for like sleep, I'll usually take melatonin when I'm working with clients that travel a lot or just in general with melatonin. I'm usually recommending when people start getting sick because it's a pretty strong antioxidant, or when you're traveling. So when you travel, about for every hour of time zone change, it takes your body 24 hours to adjust your circadian rhythm to that. So if you went 3 hours of time zone change, it's going to take 3 hours to get back on track. And then when you come back home, you restart that process back again if you've been gone for a few days. So if you take melatonin, supplement with that, you can override that process a little bit. So that's something I'll do. I think it helps too with like inflammation of just, I don't know about you, but I feel pretty crappy sometimes after a flight with just jet lag and being up in the air and recycled air in the plane. So
I try not to think about the recycled air too much.
Just breathing in everybody else.
Just breathing it all in.
So that I try to get some movement in relatively soon after getting off the plane. So whether that's going for a walk, sometimes it's like we're stopping at a store to get whatever we need, and just getting some activity in, knocking the cobwebs off. Try to keep my sleep schedule relatively the same. I'm getting to the point where, like, one of my things for me is not taking as many red eye flights because it just messes that up. So it's not really a specific protocol, but just trying to find a flight time that doesn't completely throw off everything for the next couple of days. So yeah, movement, some melatonin, some specific supplementation for that. I think a lot of people tend to get sick right after.
So you're a guy that does not take melatonin regularly, right?
I try not to anymore. I was a person that took it for years on end. Not as much anymore, not as frequently. It's like anything else, like if it's directly affecting it, which melatonin is a hormone in your body and you're completely reliant on that, there should be some breaks in there somewhere. But that is a good use case scenario, is when you're traveling, to just help your body get adjusted to a time zone and help with some immune system and inflammation. So stuff I do a lot of, now that I'm thinking about it. I work with a lot of people that do travel, whether they're athletes traveling or business executives doing that. And some of the things that I put in place for them are maybe some of the cold exposure. Like if they're going to a place where they're going to have a meeting. I just put actually a couple like nutrition protocols together where most of us are probably not tracking as well when we're on the road, or we're just not eating on par with that. Most people are just completely throwing it out the windows, but like I think that there is definitely a happy medium. So like a lot of protocols I'll put together. Keep in whatever your biggest meal is going to be, because at some point you're probably eating out during the day when you're doing it. So why don't you just enjoy that? Save the biggest bang calorie-wise when you're not tracking and you're more eating intuitively. Make that like your primary calorie window, whether that's breakfast or whether that's dinner. For a lot of people, it ends up being dinner. And then keep it protein-based and like fruits and veggies the rest of the day. And then have some drinks if you want to, enjoy a big meal and dessert later on in the day. And then, if you do that and you can maintain where you're at, you just get right back on track when you're back. And it's honestly a win at that point, because
that's what I think a lot of people miss. It's not necessarily that you're going to make a bunch of progress while you're on vacation or while you're traveling. It's more so setting yourself up so that when you get back, you're not trying to get back on the wagon.
It's a great topic.
Like as long as you don't totally fall off over vacation, it'll be okay. But you want to have those habits coming back.
Because how many people, you may have been there in the past where you're just like, screw it. I'm on vacation. It's, I've already started off on the wrong foot. I'm just gonna throw it all out the window and just do that.
I've definitely had some resort vacations where like my game plan going in is like, all right, the resort has a nice gym right here. It's like a 5-minute walk. I'm going to hit the gym, go eat some good food, and do that every day. Mm-hmm. And the first couple times I went, that lasted for like 2 days. And then I don't know if I just got lazy with it or it was just eating so much bad stuff that you kind of feel like shit.
Yeah.
And you're like, man, I don't want to go to the gym right now. I just ate a bunch of stuff last night. I feel bad this morning. It kind of has a negative spiral effect. Or it can. Mm-hmm. And the last couple times I've done a better job of starting each morning, whether it's a walk on the beach or working out, something like that, to just get my body moving and get me fired up, ready for the day.
Yeah, it's those little things too. We'll circle back. There's something I want to touch on with just that time, this time of the year, the holidays and that, but more specifically with traveling stuff. Like when we go to the Caribbean, which we tend to go on a Caribbean trip every single year, we'll usually get up, we will do breakfast and we'll go straight to the weight room. Typically after that, it might not be an hour, but we're getting in, we're doing something. And then throughout the day, like I'll set something where like, if I'm going to go get a drink, I'm going to go take a lap swim between every single drink. And like do stuff like that's where I'm not just eating and laying around. Like I'm kind of, in my mind at least, having some type of a balancing act. Because I think
you got to go get your drinks from the bar that's way over there.
Make it extra steps. I mean, that little stuff too. Because I feel like that's where that theme that we talk about, like if it's not 100%, most people are like, all right, everything's out the window. And like for me too, traveling and workout wise, usually I'll bring either a jump rope or some bands with me. Something I can throw in a backpack and just take it. And it might not be like going to the weight room, but busting out some push-ups, some jump rope, and some banded stuff for 20 minutes. Still better than nothing. So I've tried to be really more conscious about doing that and not just vacation. Then you spend the next week trying to get back on track once you're back.
I did do some push-ups.
There you go.
That's got to count.
You're undershooting yourself.
I did.
Yeah.
I probably did. I think it was between 100 and 150 over 4 or 5 sets. So it was like enough to get a pretty good pump going. Mm-hmm. Some of them tricep focused. I kind of forgot how much I like doing push-ups.
Yeah. It's probably, you probably didn't lose a step.
No,
that's the thing. It's like, like we just wasted the entire last 4 days. But in the grand scheme of things, I think we underestimate how easy it is to maintain.
Yes.
What you've probably built over the last 12 years, and underestimate how big of an impact just those small things, like maybe taking an extra walk, a little bit extra movement, prioritizing a little bit different meal structure, isolating calories at a certain point of the day so that you can enjoy like bigger meals later on. Like all that stuff tends to add up. And going into the point of what I was referring to with this time of the year, something we've been going over with my mentor is with the general population and heading into this time of the year, especially around the holidays, like most people are saying, fuck it. Let's throw caution to the wind. We're at the tail end of summer. most people's summer goals are starting to go away, right? Because they're not at the beach or the pool anymore. And by the time November hits and around Thanksgiving, how many people are actually going to the gym? How many people are paying any attention to their diet? And so what he has been working on us with is reframing it with clientele that, like, right now is the time to push. Like, if you've got goals, keep pushing them right now, because once the holidays hit, it's maintenance mode. And maintenance is success at that point. Like, unless you're a psychopath or this is your lifestyle, like for me and you, I would say that our expectations should probably be a little bit higher. Like, we should be consistently on our things, enjoy Thanksgiving and maybe the day after, and then we're right back on track. But for the people that are consistently gaining 5 to 10 pounds every single year during the holiday season, maintenance is probably success. Because if you're going to gain 5 to 10 pounds, which you've done for the past 5 years, and you shift the goal to maintenance and you don't gain any weight, that January 1st now looks a whole lot different.
Oh, you're in a way better position. And not only are you in a better position, but you also have so much more momentum going into it.
100%. Like, if you don't have to strip 10 extra pounds off and then try to get to your goal weight, because that adds another 3 months. Like, if you spend the next 3 months doing that, you're probably going to spend the next 3 months from January to March trying to get right back on track. And then after that, you can start working towards what your actual goal is at this point in time. So it's really just about, like, reframes, I think, a lot of times in life of, like, what's the goal? What is it now? Because diets work. Most people's approaches just don't usually work when it comes to that. And if we shift focus to, all right, let's step on the gas pedal right now, up until the point where we get to Thanksgiving, and then give yourself the freedom mentally and physically to enjoy that. You know, maybe you're not completely going off track, but you stay, like, on par and we don't lose any momentum. That's going to end up being a win by the time you get to January. Like you mentioned, like, that's just forward progress from there on out. And then you probably just have that habit built up, because what do most people do January 1st? They're good for the next 3 months after that. Where are most people at by March or April?
Back on the couch.
Back on the couch until June or July, when they think, oh shit,
it's pool season.
It's pool season. And then it's just like this cycle. And you see the same people every single year doing that. And I think that's also where, like, travel and busyness factors into that equation, because the holidays end up being an excuse. Travel ends up being an excuse. And when you start looking at it, like, 60% of your year ends up being excuses about why you couldn't accomplish this thing, because it's not the best case scenario. Whereas if you got 30,000 steps, like, you prioritize going and walking around the city, you did push-ups, you were prioritizing, maybe you're not eating the best foods, but you're controlling calories within that, you'd probably find yourself in a lot different position year in and year out, because, like we talked about on multiple podcasts, it's not getting any easier. Your life's not getting any busier. At this point, it's just you telling yourself that until eternity, and the years just keep on floating by. And actually, statistically, most Americans from the age 18 and on gain 0.8 to 5 pounds every single year.
Wow.
Solely in November and December.
Really?
That's almost isolated to those 2 months. And that happens almost every single year. So most people's health declines happen within a 2-month period that they then spend the rest of the year, like, trying to overcome. A lot of people aren't doing it, but it's just like, you look at the compounding effect of that over 10 years, you're adding just a couple pounds and it just starts sneaking up on you.
So do you think it's an issue of people getting too crazy at the Thanksgiving dinner, or is it more so like all of those habits kind of falling off at the same time?
Yeah.
Or what have you seen with clients?
I think that the dose makes the poison with everything. One giant Thanksgiving dinner. And that's where I tell people, like, dude, like, unless you are going to be stepping on a bodybuilding stage within the next couple of months, go enjoy your Thanksgiving. Like, again, maybe structure your day where if you're going to have a big Thanksgiving dinner, maybe have a little bit lighter for breakfast. Don't go completely off the rails for, like, 4 meals and eat 15,000 calories. But, like, go enjoy your day. It's not the one day that's going to kill you. How much you would have to eat to actually put on a pound of fat in 1 day, or even 2 days, or maybe even 3 days, would have to be a lot.
Yeah.
Right? because it takes 3,500 calories for 1 pound of fat. And that's not also counting like what your body burns off, uses for muscle. Where I find that most people fall off the wagon is the Thanksgiving, but also the 15 parties that led up to that, the social events, going out, the drinks, the get-togethers, where it's just like kind of death by a thousand cuts, where you start adding in those higher calorie meals, the cookies, the cakes that come into play. And then you look over the course of like, you're literally spending every single weekend in a surplus, November through December. And that starts to eat away at you. So no, honestly, I think that if you were to save your bang for your buck, big old Thanksgiving dinner, big old Christmas dinner, you had leftovers for 1 or 2 days, and then you were right back on track, I'd say that's totally fine. Like, go for it. But it's all the other things, the drinks, every other night, the get-togethers, because also, work probably starts winding down for most people. Most of the times at work, they're also doing parties and get-togethers. I see a lot of clients that are like, yeah, man, that's just always there. November, December, like people are just making goods coming in. And I'm grabbing a cookies here.
And cake.
Yeah.
And treats.
Yeah. Spice cakes and fruit cakes and all that. And that, those small things can add up over the course of 7 days and then the course of 2 months. What about for you? Is there anything that you've noticed when either working with clients or yourself about getting into the winter, getting into the holiday season?
I mean, you just have to really, like any other time of the year, you got to make it a priority.
Mm-hmm.
And if you don't make it a priority, there's plenty of things that come up in the summer or can come up to ruin your plan. But it's probably worse in the winter, in November and December. Partially, one, those mornings are a lot colder. So if you're a morning workout person, it's easier or more inviting to stay under the warm covers, especially after you had a big meal and stayed up too late last night.
Mm-hmm.
And frame it as Ed Mylett says that it's a separation season, and that's both in business and in fitness. Everybody across the board is kind of taking their foot off the gas, especially in business, but in fitness as well. And if you can stay focused on that time while you see everybody else falling off the wagon, it also helps your own confidence in what you're doing, because you realize, oh yeah, I can still follow my plan even if it's the holiday season.
Mm-hmm.
And you just kind of reinforce that you do what you say you're going to do, so that when you do show up January 1st, you're ready to rock and roll, and you're not like, oh man, I just dropped the ball over the last 2 months.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. I think that the cold weather plays a big role in it, right? Because summertime, it's easy to get outside and go on walks, play pickleball, bike, whatever you do. Like, most people are active then. Cold weather comes, I'd say that most people's general activity levels are cut in half, right? And a lot of people don't know this. People are super surprised when I bring up this fact, but 60 to 80% of your total daily calories are burned from just that general activity during your day, like the movements, walking around. You only burn about 3 to 5% of your total daily calories from a workout. Like, if you're working out to burn calories, you're completely missing the boat. Unless you're working out, doing 5 CrossFit workouts per day, the amount of calories you burn is pretty insignificant. So if you're cutting down on the main driver of your calorie burning per day, which is general activities, walking, getting outside, and then you start adding more food on top of that, like, that's just a recipe for slapping on some pounds.
So one thing you mentioned there that's probably one of my, it's probably not quite on the level of a pet peeve, but it drives me nuts when I see people share their Apple Watch calorie burn or whatever.
Yeah.
It's like, I worked really hard and I burned 400 calories. It's like, in the grand scheme of things, does not make a very big difference.
No. One, because those trackers usually off 70% of the time.
Yeah.
2, I mean, how much time, like, that's a pretty intense workout, and you probably spend, if you're burning 400 calories, that's probably a 2-hour workout of probably some cardiovascular stuff.
Yeah.
And so walk it through. So why is weightlifting a bigger priority for the most part than cardio when it comes to people? Like, let's just take it because most people, right, have a weight loss goal. Heading into this holiday season, most people are struggling with weight loss. Why is the calorie burn from workouts not super important, and where does like lifting come into that equation? Because you're not burning any calories from weightlifting.
Yeah. So lifting is huge because the more muscle mass that you're going to have on your frame, the more calories you're going to burn throughout that 60-80% of the activity that you were talking about. So if you have a 220 pound guy that's 10% body fat, and you have a 180 pound guy that's 10% body fat, assuming genetically they're identical and the only difference is the muscle mass, the guy that's 220 is going to be burning quite a few more calories than the guy that's at 180. And that's good because that means you can get leaner either quicker or while eating more food, or both, which is a good spot to be, because if you don't have any muscle mass and you have a pretty small frame, you're what people would consider skinny fat, you're not burning a ton of calories compared to if you did have more muscle mass.
Yep. Great point.
And on the calorie aspect, it's a lot easier to not eat those Reese's than it is to go burn off 200 to 400 calories. So as long as you control and calculate and track what you're eating, then you don't have to worry as much about how much you burn in your workout, because that goal should be, at least if you're trying to look better aesthetically, should probably be to build more muscle.
100%. And that's such a big misconception that most people still miss the bucket on, is they're just solely focusing on that calorie burn from the exercise they're doing, which typically leads most people in just chronic cardio, which cardio is important for different reasons. But something else to think about too, like when you are losing body weight, which most people's goals are, dropping some pounds, and why the weightlifting is so important is because it's not an extreme amount, but for every pound of muscle mass that you lose, your baseline maintenance of calories drops. So during the course of weight loss, like let's say you lost 10 pounds of weight, like the Ozempic conversation, right?
Yeah.
And that's one reason, like if it really was that great for weight loss and total body composition, bodybuilders probably would have been using this like 15 years ago. Like I mentioned in the last podcast, it does have its place, but it tends to eat through some muscle. It's not muscle protective, which ends up being an issue, because if you lose 50% muscle and 50% body fat, the basal calories that you were maintaining your weight on originally now go down. So when you come out of that phase of dieting, it is going to be easier to get into a surplus because you just essentially downregulated your metabolism by losing muscle mass.
And then worst case scenario, you get back up to or above the weight you were at, but now you have the 50% less muscle mass or 20 pounds or whatever it is. Then you're in a worse situation than you were before you even started.
Yeah, because you probably increased your fat percentage at that point.
Absolutely.
And that's where the yo-yo comes in of like, all right, now it's time to go lower calorie. And then you get these people that chronically undereat or low calories that haven't hit their goal. So it ends up being a downhill slide with a lot of those things.
I think some of that comes from sort of exactly what you said, people focusing on what the scale says and what their weight is. And I understand why people do that, because that's such a subjective or objective rather number. It's like, well, that's my weight. It's an easy thing. If it's going down and making progress, cool. But it doesn't really tell you the full picture.
No, not at all. Not at all. And you got to have some baseline, what you're looking at, and wrapping that back into what we're talking about with travel and being busy. Most people should probably be staying off of the scale around the holiday season to some extent, especially if you're somebody that gets in your head or you're obsessed with a scale number, because that's fluctuating every single day. With water weight, carbohydrates, like you could very likely be 10 pounds heavier after Thanksgiving Day. And if you don't know the fact that you can retain 10 extra pounds of water and glycogen from that meal, that could freak you out and probably dissuade you from pursuing your goals a little bit more, because you're like, oh, what's the point? Like, I'm just going to put 10 pounds on.
I had one piece of cake and I gained 5 pounds.
Exactly. And that's it ends up being a big challenge with people that are on an extended weight loss journey. Like I've got a few clients that, we're pushing towards losing 50 plus pounds, and it's not linear, either up or down with the weight. And as long as it's like trends over time, though, that's the main goal. Are you seeing new lows every week or every couple of weeks. Even if your weight comes back up 10 pounds in one day, which it just might, hopefully not 10 pounds, but that tends to happen. And finding what works for you. Like if you're somebody that's a mental midget when it comes to weight, that's probably something you need to stay away from, especially going into the holiday season. Like when we talk about like maintenance and re-shifting your focus of what the holiday season should be, what success actually looks like during the holiday season, stay away from those things that are triggers for you that are going to send you spiraling, into the fuck it mentality.
Yeah. Because you probably know who you are.
Mm-hmm.
Like if you look back over the last, assuming this isn't the first time that you've cared about fitness and the first time that you're pursuing some type of a goal, look at how you've handled yourself over the last 5 holiday seasons. And not everybody is going to have the same situation. Like for the most part, I do a good job of staying in the gym. I can kind of eat pretty bad and I'm going to be fine.
Yeah.
Especially where I'm at in my fitness journey, but that's not the case for everybody.
No.
If you know that you can have a bad meal and then hop on the scale the next day and then it's going to just totally wreck your world, then you need to be aware of that and probably not hop on the scale the next day.
Yep. Exactly. I made a post today talking about how it has become so normal for people to like start and stop diets and workouts, right? Like it's so normal to be trying something 2 to 3 times per year. Usually during beginning of summer, January 1st, because we just have the spiral of things. And the diets work.
Yeah.
Obviously, like we've proven. We've talked about that numerous times with like food quality. You've dieted down to single-digit body fat, still eating Klondike bars every single night. But most people's approach with things is not where it needs to be. And a complete like reshift with that, whether you're busy, whether you're traveling, whether it's the holiday season, about what that looks like, because a brand new diet you haven't tried and a brand new workout program is probably not the magic that you need, because the last 10 didn't work. And
this one's different though.
Yeah. So if the last 10 haven't worked, there's probably something off, but that's just so outside of the scope of what most of us are thinking about. It's not about reshifting your relationship to diet and fitness. It's more about, what's the magic pill that is in the next best thing, which is why the fitness industry still stays relevant and stays profitable, because you've got new supplements, new marketing rolling out every holiday season. Every January 1st, the gyms blow up, with new promos, new classes every single January with the next best thing. And there's nothing new in the fitness industry. There might be some new revolutionary supplements or pharmaceuticals, like in research is developing. They're finding more, information out in terms of like training, quality, and what moves the needle. But for the most part, people have been doing the right things, whether they knew it or not, for the last 100 years. So like there's no new information out there that's really going to change your life. There's no new workout program or anything like that. It's got to come from someplace else if you're really trying to make it a change that's going to stick, because it's not normal to be starting and stopping something all the time. And that's where I think that these people with like the keto or the 30-day sprints is like, oh yeah, it's meant to be like a 30-day thing. And it's like, don't you want to keep it off long term? Like
the only time I see like that kind of sprint mentality to have any type of benefit is if it's like, hey, in 30 days, I'm going on a trip, or I've got a family reunion, whatever it is. If there's like a specific event and you drop the ball and for whatever reason, you're 4 weeks out and you're like, oh, I need to do something quick.
Mm-hmm.
Then I kind of get it. But yeah, just to start something only to fall off the wagon.
Yeah.
2-3 months later.
It just does. I mean, when you really think about it, it just doesn't make sense, because if it really worked that good, you should be able to never do it again. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, sustainability with your approach during the busy season, like really finding systems that work for you. And if you don't, find somebody that's done it or that can help you with that, because like I've got to find, help with those things, whether it's professionally or fitness wise, because we all have something that we suck at. And we all have these limiting beliefs about that it's going to work or not. And if you're not finding success for things, you need to probably find the people that are. So And then, surround yourself in a good environment with it. Like if you're around people that are not in line with your goals, especially like traveling wise or holiday seasons, that's a big thing. If you're just going to places or around people that party, they eat like dog shit, and that's not in line with your goals, it might be time to find a new circle.
Absolutely. And newsflash, most people aren't in good shape. So there's a pretty good chance that your family is probably not killer athletes that are absolutely crushing it 100% of the time. So make sure you find those people to be around outside of just in person as well.
Exactly. Like I don't think you need to bring Tupperware to Thanksgiving dinner. You don't need to avoid your family unless you're in the middle of a bodybuilding prep. But at the same token, like going back to that point I said of like the dose makes a poison. If the entirety of your friend group and who you hang out with is all they do is just drink and they have nothing going in a line with your goals, with what they want to do when you guys get together, then that's on you at that point.
Yeah.
Like that's a choice that you're making that you're probably outsourcing to, this is because there's never good food around or XYZ amount of people that don't want to do that. And at the end of the day, like if this is really important to you, you have to be the one to make a change, potentially find a new circle and take it into your own hands, because at the end of the day, man, most people in the United States are going to die of cardiovascular disease and falling off the wagon off and on. So it's not important until it is.
I love it. So dose makes the poison. Don't completely fall off the wagon this holiday season.
No. And shift your expectations of things. Like I'm sure if a lot of people started thinking about like once you hit Thanksgiving through December of do enough to stay on track and stay where you're at, it's kind of almost a stress relief. Like it's less pressure, and with less pressure on that aspect, the completely falling off the train hopefully is not going to be there mentally, because that gives you a little bit of bandwidth to work it with and still enjoy your life, enjoy family, being around those things. But the work that is taking you to this point, like you still maintain it and you still have it. And then by the time next year rolls, you're right where you want to be. You're not any further behind, and that's success, honestly, at this point of the year.
Completely agree.
That's about all I got.
All right. Well, that's it for today. We'll catch you next time on the Forging Alpha podcast.
Peace.